We've now begun to look at some of the many problems with naturalism. We started off by considering the fact that scientists today have no real explanation for how the universe began. That is, there's no answer as to where the initial point of energy or singularity came from, or how all the matter in the universe fit into a microscopic point, smaller than a grain of sand. No one knows, yet we are told it is a fact. That's a big problem for naturalism. We also considered how naturalists say that in all the universe there was no life at the start, but then life suddenly came into existence all by itself about 3.6 billion years ago. And then over time, life evolved, and now you have humans and all different kinds of animals all over the earth. And of course, you can easily find the theory of the evolution of life wherever you look. It's in schools, museums, TV, everywhere. But what you can't find is an actual scientific, fact-based explanation of how it all started. Where did that first living organism come from? And how did it reproduce? No one knows. Another big problem. And then we also considered the fact that the laws of nature only came into existence after the universe came into existence, which means it's impossible for the universe to be created by those laws of nature. The laws of nature can't create themselves. That's nonsense. The laws of nature exist only because matter and energy exist. And without matter or energy, there are no laws of nature. All right, so today I want to look at a couple more scientific problems with the view of naturalism. Remember that naturalism is a scientific model that attempts to explain how everything got here without the involvement of God. And since it is a scientific model, it makes many predictions that we can consider and then assess whether it is correct as a model. So let's look at a couple of scientific predictions of the naturalism model and then learn if they are supported by observable science. First, according to the Big Bang, when the universe expanded, energy converted into matter. And that's where we get all the stars and galaxies from. Energy took on the form of matter. Sounds good. However, besides accounting for where that indescribably large amount of energy came from in the first place, there are other problems. According to what we know about this process, whenever energy converts into matter, it always produces something called antimatter as well. You may have heard of something called particle colliders, like the Hadron Collider in Geneva, Switzerland. These are huge machines that accelerate and smash protons into each other at very high speeds, close to the speed of light. And when this happens, to put it simply, we learn that Einstein's predictions are correct. Energy is matter, and matter is energy. When these very high-speed collisions occur, it releases energy, and some of the energy produced is converted into matter, like another proton. But what we also observe is that whenever a new proton is formed from these high-speed collisions, there is also something else formed called an antiproton. Both matter and antimatter are produced. All our scientific observations tell us this. Whenever energy converts into matter, it also produces the same amount of antimatter. Okay, well, if that's true, and if energy converted into matter in the Big Bang, then obviously there should be antimatter everywhere in the universe. There should be tons of it. We can see all the matter, the stars, the planets, and galaxies, but what we don't at all observe is all the antimatter that should be there. Where is it? If the universe really started with a Big Bang, then it should have created matter and antimatter in equal proportions. But there's almost no antimatter at all in the universe. What happened? Where did it all go? No one knows. Nobel Prize in Physics winner and one of the leading physicists in the search for antimatters in space, Dr. Samuel Ting said, at the beginning, equal amounts of matter and antimatter were created. Now there seems to be only matter. There have been theoretical speculations about the disappearance of antimatter, but no experimental support. Dr. Ting has no idea where the antimatter went. No scientist does. Again, a big problem when it comes to a belief in naturalism. Now let's look at one other problem we run into with naturalism because it also has to do with matter. Currently, according to the naturalism model, there appears to be about 22% of the universe that consists of a type of matter that we're not able to detect or observe at all. There appears to be signs of it, and we think it's there, but we can't see it or measure it. This is something scientists have called dark matter. It's called dark matter because they can't see it. They assume it's there, but they don't know what it is or even how to look for it. Now, keep in mind that dark matter and antimatter are not the same thing. Antimatter we can see, but only teeny tiny amounts when we smash protons together. Dark matter we can't see at all. Why do some astronomers think that dark matter exists? Well, when we look into space and we see the galaxies spinning, we notice that they appear to be spinning too fast for the amount of matter we can measure that they contain. That is, if the galaxies only had the amount of matter in them that we can see and observe, then that wouldn't be enough matter to keep the galaxies held together by the force of gravity for how fast they are spinning. And so what we would tend to think is that because the galaxies are spinning so fast, they should be coming apart completely, and the stars should just go flying off into space. That's what we think should be happening. There shouldn't be any galaxies because there's not enough observable mass in them to hold them together for how fast they are spinning. But we have many galaxies, billions times billions of them, and they are staying together just fine. So that means that for those who believe in naturalism, there must be a lot more matter inside those galaxies than we can see, and it's that extra matter that keeps them together. This is what they are calling dark matter. They can't see it, but they're just assuming it must be there. According to naturalism, how much more matter needs to be in the galaxies than what we can observe? About 5 times more. That's a lot. So if the average galaxy right now has about 100 billion stars in it, it should instead have the mass of 500 billion stars in order to keep it together. So as yet unproven dark matter has to make up the equivalent of 400 billion stars worth of matter per galaxy. That's a lot of this so-called dark matter. So once again, all this so-called matter that we can't find or detect is being referred to as dark matter because no one can see it and we don't know what it is. And it's called matter because it appears to make up about 22% of the universe. Now, I should mention that it is possible that something like dark matter does exist, and the reason we can't see it is because we don't know what to look for, since it's an entirely new kind of matter. That's possible, and scientists continue to try to study and measure dark matter, but have been totally incapable of doing it to date. My point is this, though. For those who believe in a creator, none of this is any problem. Because first, the universe didn't come into existence by a big bang of energy. God created it from nothing. So there's no need for more antimatter in the creation model. And this is fine scientifically because as far as we can determine, antimatter doesn't exist in the sufficient quantities to support the Big Bang. Second, in the creation model, the galaxies don't need extra matter to keep them together. God does that. It says in Hebrews 1:3 that Jesus upholds the universe by the word of his power. So God is the one holding it all together. Maybe one day we will find out more about what's happening in space, or maybe we won't. But we certainly don't need to find an explanation to missing antimatter and mysterious dark matter because we have an explanation in Scripture. God created it all, and he is the one holding everything in his creation together.